And I was just about to say that to everybody, so I do apologise. Welcome everybody, and we are live streaming, so can I ask everybody please to make sure that they're speaking to their microphones? Can I ask if you have got your mobiles, please to turn them on to silent. There are no plans for a fire alarm tonight, so if one does sound, it will be the fact that we need to evacuate the building, and we will do it through the doors there. Could I remind everybody once again about speaking into the microphone, please? And can I now ask everybody to introduce themselves? We'll start at the far end there, please.
Thank you. Mark Baskerville, Internal Audit Manager.
Andy Delatsky, Head of Internal Audit.
John Payne, Councillor for Whitewell and Stacksteads.
Alan Woods, Councillor for Helmshire Wood.
Ian Walker, Rosendale Council Service Assurance Team.
Glenda Ashton, Committee Officer.
Molly Barton, Accountant.
Kimberly Howarth, Head of Financial Services.
Judith Driver, Councillor for Bacup Ward and Chair of Audit and Accounts.
Marilyn Proctor, Councillor for Haslingden Ward.
Daniel Ashworth, Britannia and Lee Mill.
Matt Norton, Councillor for Longholm.
Simon McManus, I'm the co-opted member.
Karen Murray, the partner from Forvis Mazars, responsible for the external audit of the council.
And Jim Lee Johnny, External Audit from Forvis Mazars.
Thank you, everybody. That was lovely and clear. Can I just ask if there are any apologies for absence? I can see that we're Councillor Kenyon short. I don't know whether or not anybody knows anything. We'll just leave that one open at the moment. She might have got stuck in traffic. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item A2, which is minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of February. Is there any points anybody would like to raise on those minutes? No. Could I ask then someone to move those minutes?
I'll move the minutes, Chair.
Thank you. Is that seconded, please?
I'm normally happy to second, but I wasn't there.
Okay. Unfortunately, Councillor Woods, I won't accept that.
Okay, I'll second the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor. Is everyone in favour of those minutes? I think that's approved. Thank you. Item A3, urgent items. I haven't got any urgent items of business that need discussing tonight. Item A4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest on A4? No. Item B1, which is public question times and questions on the agenda. Is there any? No, we haven't got any public. Do we know any? No, we haven't had any written ones. Nothing. Okay. Right. Oh gosh, we're zooming through the first page there. Then. Item C, Chair's update. Just got a little update. Following a change on the committee membership, I'd like to thank. I'd like it to go on record that I'm thanking Councillor Michelle Smith for all her long years on this committee, and welcome Councillor Danielle Ashworth as the new member. Thank you. Item D1, which is the annual fraud report, 2025 to 2026. Can I ask Ian to speak on this report, please?
Thank you. Yeah. So the report sets out the work that the fraud and compliance team undertook in 25-26. The recommendations purely to note the contents of that report. To highlight some key points, the report sets out the fraud and compliance officers' partnership working with DWP, the police, other local authorities, National Anti-Fraud Network, and the Lancashire and Greater Manchester Fraud Group. It sets out at 3.6 the work done on the National Fraud Initiative, just highlighting February 2025, the NFI released 261 matches for investigation. All those have now been looked at. At 3.1 to 3.2 of the report, it details the fraud awareness training that was undertaken within the council. Between 3.15 and 3.27, there's various statistics with performance that I'll summarise at the end, but to highlight the analysed local system falls under the fraud officer. That's a system which helps us find increases in rateable value that might otherwise be missed. And the yield we're expecting from that piece of work is just over £34,000. The fraud officer also highlights an issue potentially with the council tax support scheme at 3.26, which we're looking to review as part of this year's annual council tax support scheme before it's passed. That's in relation to areas where the fraud officer is able to identify issues with customers making claims for council tax support, identify that they probably shouldn't be, but when you refer those into the DWP, they're not actioned at that end. The council's local council tax support scheme currently says we will base that off the Secretary of State's decision, which is effectively the DWP's decision. So we will be considering whether there's a way to then override that decision where we have clear evidence that it should be overridden if the DWP remains inactive. So we'll update on that as we go. In terms of the funding or the money that's then collected, that's set out in parts 3.28 to 3.30. We can't separately identify when we show the figures of amounts that have been stopped in terms of benefits, discounts, etc. That they're not separately quantifiable in terms of how much of that money we've got back in. Clearly, it's all very well stopping those claims, but we need to know that we've got that money back where it's appropriate. What we can do is pick out where overpayments are recoverable. At 3.29, it sets out that we retain 40% subsidy on the housing benefit ones, and our overall collection rate for the year was 121.97%. Essentially, we got back more in recovered overpayments than were actually raised during that particular year. So we can surmise that we're getting almost all of it back. I should highlight at this point, at 3.30, there's a final sentence in there that talks about how those figures were calculated in relation to Q2 and how they were affected by the DWP. I have to comment, that's an error. That needs to be removed. That's something that seems to be carried over from a previous report and doesn't apply to these figures. So those figures where we quote the 121.97 are absolutely bang on. At 3.32 to 3.36, there's sets out various other fraud and prevention activities separate to the referrals and the National Anti-Fraud Network stuff. At 3.38, gives a brief summary of joint working with the DWP. On to the page. At 3.39, briefly sets out trends that we're seeing in terms of fraud identified. And at 3.40 to 3.43, sets out the conclusion on the report and basically gives a summary that there were £25,000 reclaimed in council tax support adjustments, just under £31,000 in housing benefit overpayments raised, 7,300 in single person discounts, 5,321 in terms of council tax liability added. So essentially the work of the fraud and compliance officer then has raised 68.4k in various discounts, exemptions and adjustments which had been wrongly claimed. Oh, sorry, and 11 civil penalties raised. I'm in trouble, I don't mention that. Right.
Thank you, Ian, for that. In fact, I think you've nearly answered what a couple of the questions that I was going to just raise, really. Before I raise my questions, has anybody got any questions for this report? Oh, Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Just note on 3.33, reference a number of staff who subsequently left, attempted to commit some fraud. Have measures been put in place, or are they already in place, to make sure that they weren't successful for the future?
I'm afraid I would have to come back to you with some detail. I have limited understanding of that case because I'm not in the fraud and compliance system, and I don't really need to know when there are only allegations. I do have a vague knowledge of that one. As I recollect, it was picked up and there was no fraud against the local authority. As I understand it, the person in question was potentially using their position to commit fraud against external bodies. So we did pick it up, we didn't lose anything, and we did liaise with those bodies, but more detail than that, I'd have to get back to you.
Councillor Woods, would you like a further...
No, that's fine. I just want some clarification on questions, because we were asked to submit questions by Monday. I don't know about anybody else, but I hadn't read the whole report anywhere near by Monday. I had no chance over the weekend. So I've made some comments. I'm not because I didn't submit any, because I didn't have the chance. Because I just want some clarification on what the intention was, what the purpose of that.
No, there's no problem.
So we're okay to ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely, certainly are. Obviously, the only thing is that we may not be able to give you a full answer tonight, and that may have to be.
I assumed the purpose of it was because I wasn't expecting Kimberley to be here tonight because of the previous conversation. So that was understandable, that given the you submit questions early so they could be prepared. But I wasn't sure about what we were protocol for tonight. Let's say. Yeah, that's going to be the regular thing now, where we're going anything with any depth that may need a further answer. There's no depth.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Councillor Woods. Councillor Payne.
Yeah, in 320, table 320, you have 3 instances of housing benefit overpayment of about £30,000. Do you expect Capita to be able to recover that money?
Yes, and that's what I was touching on with the overpayment rates. We were over 100% on the overpayment. So I don't know the individual cases again. So I can't give you a clear sort of red, green, amber status on individual claims. But in general, I would expect us to be able to recover that money.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Councillor Payne?
It just seems that that's about £10,000 per person. I would have thought it would be quite difficult to get that much back. That's all. That's why I was asking whether you think that's likely to happen.
Yeah, it depends on the sort of claim and the difficulty that there are. It's often the time it takes to get the money back rather than the actual difficulty in getting it back at all. But the key factor there is if a person has overclaimed and they still have ongoing entitlement, we can recover from ongoing benefit, and it might take some time, but that money comes out. It does tend to potentially get more difficult if they're no longer in receipt of any benefit and we have to get into other areas.
Councillor Norton.
Yeah, similarly, I've not submitted my questions in advance, so apologies for that.
So I think within the report, and it's a few days since I've read it, there's quite a lot there. So apologies if I get anything wrong here. But there's mention obviously of the NFI cases and that system. So my question was simply, have any of the cases presented what you feel kind of learning opportunities for the council to protect us moving forward?
Right. What I would say is, I'm sorry, I keep saying this sort of thing. I'm not the fraud officer, so I don't really know the cases. One of the key reasons that the fraud officer sits within the service assurance function is because there is that synergy there, that if fraud is getting into the system, as well as on our broader service assurance function to look at the capita contract and the revenues and benefits, there's also those opportunities to feed back in and say, well, how did that happen? I can't recall any huge issues. You know, the claims that happen is because, you know, most of the time people don't notify us of changes. To a large extent, with real-time information, we find out from the DWP anyway, but there are some cases where they're not telling the DWP either.
Right.
And all we can do is try and resolve those as soon as we can. But it's, unfortunately, we don't know what we don't know, but there are lots of ways and means these days with the sharing of information that a lot less goes on, or, well, perhaps that's the wrong thing to say. Things go on for a lot less time before they're identified because there are a lot more ways and means to put a stop to things.
Okay.
Councillor Norton, are you okay with that?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Has anybody else got any? Oh, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Chair. It's just sort of thank you for the report, first of all. It is really detailed and there's obviously a lot of effort going in to give us an awful lot of information. What I wondered, because there's reference to working with the different agencies, and at the end of the report, they said there would normally be scope within the workload for other proactive exercises to be undertaken, but not been able to. But I sort of got the feeling reading the report, and I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong, there seems to be a disconnect somewhere between the information that you have, we handed over to the other agencies to look at, and they maybe don't seem to give it the same depth of scrutiny as we do.
I think the issue that not an issue, but it's the sheer volume with the DWP at times that, you know, we have a fraud and compliance officer. It's quite a nimble operation. She picks up a case, she deals with it. The DWP, we sometimes hit delays because it can be some months sometimes before things move along. So there's a bit of a time lag on these. And I think it's touched on in one of the things on the NFI report that there was an issue identified on the 22-23 matches, and we're getting to court next year. Now that is a particularly long and complex case. That's a real outlier. But across the board, there are potentially time lags, and we can't really drive the DWP. In many ways, the DWP drive us.
Yeah. So what you referred to in, what is it, in 342 about the proactive exercises, do you think that might be something that could be reinstated at some stage in this next year, or not?
Yes, potentially, but largely we are driven by referrals and the National Fraud Initiative and what people are telling us about. Some of the proactive exercises tend to be broadly about council tax discounts and exemptions. We have a programme within the capita contract for dealing with those as well, but there have been occasions on other years sometimes where the fraud officers taken another dive and really rechecked the checks and done a little bit more in terms of information gathering potentially. I have to say, as the team leader, that I'm not really concerned. It's nice if that work can be done, but when we have done it, quite often there's a lot of checking for not finding very much inactivity. So yeah, it's something we always try to factor in, but if there are, if effectively the team's busy with the NFI stuff and outward referrals, I certainly wouldn't drop those in favour of doing a proactive secondary check on some council tax discounts or exemptions, because I think the meat is in the anti-fraud stuff, the National Anti-Fraud Network stuff, and the NFI stuff, and the things that the public are telling us about, not something where we just think we'll have a look and see if there's anything there.
Thank you. So the comforting is when you said there that when those exercises have been carried out, there's not been much found, which means sort of we're on top of it and everybody's doing as they should do.
Yes, yeah. I think the only time it was ever
Ian.
productive was the very first time we tried it about 10 years ago, and then we put things in place and there's nothing much comes from it now, if you do it.
I think really mine have been answered now, to be quite honest. But I was just concerned about do we deliver fraud awareness training? I mean, I'm concerned about all these, but I'm not going to go on now about because everybody's asked them. Fraud awareness training in-house, or do we team up with other authorities and look at how they're doing anything, or do we do them in-house?
Largely totally in-house. There's an in-house fraud awareness program that's mandatory for everybody as they start, which is quite a broad educational thing about what might constitute fraud and how it might come about. And then over and above that, the fraud and compliance officer has a much more detailed rolling program with the revenues and benefits team. That's more like once a quarter, just to, most of the things where we're going to find anything, they are within the revenues and benefits function. And she works to sort of continually hammer that point home with them to things to be looking out for and to pick up during the routine business.
And just going back to 320 again, it's been discussed, but how much actually, in real terms, have the compliance officers with their investigations of overpayment and adjustments, have we actually saved? Can you answer that question? Are we?
I can only
in 343 the summaries of results and actions taken.
We can only work back from those general collection rates. So what happens if there is a reduction in a discount or a council tax support or an exemption? It's not like a benefits overpayment where there's a separate invoice issued. It forms part of that council tax account, and therefore we can't pull it out without going through and the compliance officer looking at every one. I can only say that the collection rate is over 95% in year. So it would be a reasonable assumption to say we've got 95% back already.
Which is showing that everybody is working to capacity with making sure that we're keeping our money safe.
Yes.
And making sure that people aren't committing fraud.
Yes. Yeah, that's very much the object of the exercise. Yeah.
Which is what we need to make sure everybody's aware of. Is there any more questions on that? No? The recommendations are that committee note the comments of the annual update report. Is there anybody wanting to move that, please?
I'll move that, Chair.
Thank you. Is there
With
anybody
thanks to
wanting
officers. I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. All in favour of that report? The report is approved. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ian, for your contribution tonight. Item D2, Review of the committee terms of reference. Can I ask Kimberly, to talk to this report, please?
Thank you. This document is the annual refresh of the terms of reference. The terms of reference sets out the purpose, responsibilities, powers and scope of the committee. They provide clarity on the committee's role, what is expected, what it is expected to oversee, and how it supports the council in meeting its governance, financial management and accountability obligations. The Accounts and Audits Committee plays a vital role in supporting good governance, financial management and accountability within the council. Its primary purpose is to provide independent assurance that the council's governance, risk management and internal control arrangements are effective and fit for purpose. The committee reviews the council's governance framework, annual governance statement and arrangements for securing value for money. It also oversees standards of conduct and makes recommendations to Cabinet and Council where appropriate. In relation to risk management and control, the committee monitors the effectiveness of the council's risk management framework, internal controls, fraud prevention arrangements and the implementation of agreed actions arising from reviews and investigations. The committee has oversight of internal audit, approving the annual audit plan, monitoring performance and audit findings, reviewing the annual opinion and ensuring internal audit work meets professional standards, providing adequate assurance on governance, risk and control. The committee also oversees the external audit function, considering the appointment and independence of the external auditor, reviewing audit reports and recommendations, approving letters of representation and ensuring external audit work delivers value for money. Finally, the committee reviews and approves the council's annual statements of accounts, considering issues raised by the external auditor where appropriate and reporting its findings and recommendations to those charged with governance, helping to strengthen accountability, transparency and effective stewardship of public resources. This is a refresh and there's no significant changes to this from previous years.
Thank you, Kimberly. That's great. Has anybody got any points they'd like to raise on the terms of reference? It is only a refresh, but
Can I just, in the past, we've sort of had feedback from our auditors, both internal and external, so said that we're missing some key elements. I'm presuming that they've looked at it and they've not provided any feedback that we're short of any information in the terms of reference. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe both parties are happy.
okay. There was nothing fed back, was there, about anything with the terms of reference? I think it's a standard terms of reference document. Realistically, I was on the audit committee committee chair teams meeting last week, and we were talking about terms of reference and the importance of terms of reference for the committee, and that everybody is aware of what they should and shouldn't be doing and what should be happening. And I think it's quite a standard document, is this? So, did you want to comment? Steve, do you want to comment? No, sorry.
Simon, no.
Oh, Simon, sorry. I apologise. Sorry. No, sorry. I thought you were indicating there. So can we move this terms of reference then, please? Can I have somebody to move
I'll
it?
move them, Chair.
Thank you. Can I have someone to second that?
I'll
please?
second them, Chair.
Thank you. Is everybody in favour of this terms of reference? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. That is approved. Item D3, which is the adoption of the statutory accounts for the financial year 25 to 26. Kimberly, that's you again, please.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to present the Council's 2025-26 statutory accounts. I'm very pleased to report that the accounts were published on the Council's website on the 30th of June, which was on time. The public inspection period runs until the 11th of August 2026. Members will be aware that local government audit continues to be affected by a significant national backlog, and in response, the government introduced backstop regulations to help restore timely audit reporting and improve accountability across the sector. Under these regulations, the deadline for adopting the council's audited accounts is 31st January 2027. At this stage, the accounts remain subject to external audit, and as with many local authorities, Rossendale continues to be affected by the wider audit backlog. And it, at this stage, is virtually certain that modified audit opinions on historic accounts will remain in place for Rossendale up to LGR. The report highlights a number of risks, including the potential for future restatement of opening balances if audit work progresses, and the impact that backlog clearance activity may have on finance resources. These risks will continue to be monitored and managed. The Statement of Accounts are a key statutory document which demonstrates the Council's financial stewardship and accountability. I, as a Section 151 officer, have certified that the accounts present a true and fair view of the Council's financial position, and they have been prepared in accordance with the required accounting standards and regulations. The recommendations of this report are that members are asked to note the contents of the report and accept the 25-26 statutory accounts as the final published unaudited accounts. And secondly, members are asked to delegate to the Head of Financial Services and the Monitoring Officer, in conjunction with the Chair of the Audit Accounts Committee, the ability to amend the documents to finalise the presentation of statutory accounts to include the addition of any minor amendments and a signed audit opinion as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Is there any questions on this item, please? Councillor Woods.
Firstly, thank you for the report. It's a really good read, but well done for publishing it on time under very difficult circumstances for yourself and your team. So I've just got a couple of observations. I mean, I think we can assume that the accounts are never truly going to be fully audited before LGR. But just an observation, page 13 on the actual beyond the report on the statement. There's a nice little graph on staff employed across services. It's a very interesting graph, but it looks like the computer ran out of ink. I couldn't distinguish between one shade of green and the other. So I'm reading that the number of staff employed across services is actually, there are 70 people in licensing and enforcement, which I doubt's the case. Yeah, some nice little variation of colour would have been good, I think.
I think we ran out of green scale.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It runs from left to right, does the colour. So
yeah.
It's from services, then ops, and it runs from left to right and then down.
I gathered that, but it was it would have been nice, I think. Everybody's different, but I like a bit more colour. And on page 22 of the same statement, I'm assuming that the figure in the bottom right-hand side of 792.2k should have been black with no parenthesis. It's a positive, isn't it?
Very good spot.
So it's good news reported as a negative.
Yes,
It is good.
good spot. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm sure that'll be changed before wherever it goes next. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Councillor Ashworth.
Okay, thank you. Obviously quite new to audit and account. And this is probably one for people that are tuning in rather than, could you just explain more around, is it common that things would be delegated to the head of finance? And why we would delegate it to be able to be amended without it coming back to committee, please?
It's only minor changes that would be delegated. So things like taking the brackets off that number. We wouldn't ever change the meaning or the message of the account without it coming back to committee. And you will see the audit report before it gets published. But it's delegation to me and the monitoring officer to just to amend this report to include the audit report when that's completed.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Councillor, and that would be for, I mean, there was an amendment on Ian Walker's statement, so we'll amend that also, won't we? And there was something that Councillor Payne picked up, so that would be amended also. If any amendments need to be picked up at all throughout the committee, that would be done by yourself.
Yeah, corrections might be better word.
Corrections. Yeah. Are you okay with that answer, Councillor Ashworth? Councillor Norton.
Yeah, thanks for the report, which is nice and clearly laid out and great. I've just got one quick question, which is probably down to my lack of knowledge potentially, but on page 24, the report talks about business rates and the rateable value of premises being up from 41,000 in the prior year to 64,000, which obviously sounds like a hell of a jump. And I think, although I might be wrong, that I picked up somewhere that it's to do with a revaluation from a couple of years previously. But could you just to explain that a little more?
Yes, so there was a rebasing exercise in 2023. So the rateable values of the business premises across the country were revalued. So the rateable value changes, the amount of rates paid changes, and it's just as that settles, our surplus and deficit is settling with it. Our estimates were based on unknown figures at the time, and as we're going further along.
Okay, so it's not, things did change from 2023 onwards, but it takes a couple of years to kind of settle down, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay with that, Councillor Norton? Oh, Councillor Payne.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still on the table, and I noticed that the outturn compared with the budget shows some quite big overspends in some cases. So, for example, parks and cemeteries, we had 121,000 overspend. Is there any particular reason for
that? So we have, yes, there are unders and overspends, and overall we did underspend in the year. Parks and cemeteries were an overspend because of remedial work carried out in the cemeteries.
Okay.
Okay, is that, anybody else got any points that they want to raise? No, thank you. So can we note those contents, please, in this report? And is anybody wanting to move that report, please?
I'll move it, Chair, with the recommendations.
Thank you. Is anybody wanting to second that report, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour of that report, please. Thank you. The report is carried. Thank you. Item D4, which is the internal audit charter. And Mark, are you going to speak on?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report represents the proposed internal audit charter and mandate for consideration and approval by the committee. The charter is a key governance document that formally defines the purpose, authority, responsibilities and independence of the internal audit function, as well as its rights of access, which allow it to fulfil its role effectively. It formalises existing arrangements and ensures they remain aligned with current professional standards and regulatory expectations. It's been updated to reflect the requirements of the new global internal audit standards, which came into effect for the UK public sector in April 2025. And we're bringing the document to committee because the standards require the audit committee as the council's governing board for internal audit purposes to review and approve the charter. This helps ensure that internal audit remains appropriately positioned, independent, adequately used, and able to provide the assurance the council requires over governance risk and risk management and internal controls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Questions for this report, Mark? Councillor Norton.
So just to, hopefully again, quite a quick question, but the head of internal audit, which that's just you also, I'm guessing, have other responsibilities or not?
I do for county, but I don't for Rosendale.
All right,
Council.
okay, that actually answers my question, which was just how you kind of maintain independence. But that's
Yeah,
clear then.
There is mechanisms you can build into it for
Yeah.
those heads that do have it, but for here, it's not an issue because I only do
That's
head of
fine.
internal audit.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any more points on this report from anybody? Councillor Woods?
Are the new global standards significantly different to what we were using before?
Do you want to take that?
Okay. Yes and no, they're not massively different. Generally, if you were compliant with the previous public internal audit sector standards, you were generally compliant with the global internal audit standards. There's some specific changes around some emphasis on ethics, on root cause analysis. But the biggest change I would probably suggest is there's more emphasis on the organisation to support internal audit and to make sure it's properly resourced and to make sure it's at that suitable level within the organisation. So where they were things that we would always work to strive to, it's now built into the standards. So it could be that as an audit team, you're complying with all the standards that we can influence, but the organisation might drag you down and fail you for the standards. We're going through self-assessment at the moment of the work that we do, and there's a 5-year external EQA, but our EQA is not due. Ironically, it's due in March 28, so it won't carry over when LGR kicks in either. So we'll have to have a look at what we do and how we do that. So we'll be looking at doing self-assessments and reporting them findings back to committee. But at the moment, we're confident we're compliant and the work hasn't massively changed. We've just had to be a bit more overt in documenting some of the things that we're already doing, really, to make sure we can evidence we're compliant.
Are you okay with that, Councillor Woods? Has anybody got any more points or questions they'd like to raise on that? No? Okay, well, can I ask someone to move that the committee are asked to consider and approve the internal audit charter then, please?
I'll move it, Chair.
Thank you. And can I ask somebody to second that, please?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour of that report, please? Thank you. That's clearly carried. Thank you. Item D5, Internal Audit Annual Report 2025-2026. And Mark, that's you again, please.
These require him to provide an independent annual conclusion on the overall adequacy and effectiveness of the council's governance, risk management and internal control framework. The conclusion is based on work completed by internal audit throughout the year across a broad range of council services, systems and activities, and also includes assurance from many other relevant sources. Having considered all these, we're giving reasonable assurance over the adequacy and the effectiveness of the council's internal control framework. This is our second highest level of assurance and is a positive statement of assurance. Doesn't mean that every control is operating effectively or that the need for improvement has been identified, but it does mean there were no findings sufficiently significant to undermine the conclusion. The report summarises internal audit findings from audits carried out in the year and includes executive summaries not previously submitted to committee. And it also includes progress against the 2026-27 internal audit plan, which will be the next report I speak to. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions on this report from Art, please? Thank you, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you for the report, and it's good to hear we've got the positive assurance bit. I always wonder what gets us to the Gold Star Award.
I mean, reasonable is a good level of assurance, and I think for me, it was really good to see that all the financial systems we gave substantial assurance to. I think where the need for improvement has been identified, it's around consistency of treatment, it's around clear policies and guidance, those kinds of issues. So I don't know if I could really give you any guidance on that. It more or less depends what we find on the day. But I think you should be pleased with the reasonable assurance. That is a really positive.
Rest assured, I am. I
Thank
just
you.
it's always sort of like what would
do we
make
need
the
to do
difference, and it's good to know that the improvements that you've brought forward before in the past have all been brought in and policies updated and everything like that. And you sort of just think what would give us that sort of extra push. But I understand what you're saying as well. That
I think also the fact that we look at different things every year.
yeah.
So we may make improvements in one area and then we'll move on to a different area where there might be a need for improvement again.
Thank you. I'm happy with the report. Thank you. I think that we've made great strides, and I have to say that is due to the commitment of the staff and the commitment of the council itself. So thank you very much, Mark, for that. Has anybody got any other points they'd like to raise? No. So can I?
I'll move it, Chair, with thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Councillor Proctor.
I'm just jumping in there.
Oh,
Sorry.
you were very good. So we're moving the recommendations. The committee are asked to consider the internal audit and annual report for 2025-2026. That has been moved. Is that seconded, please?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour, please. Thank you. That is approved. Thank you. On item D6, which is the internal audit annual plan for 2026-2027. Mark,
Me again.
I think that's
Chair.
you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We may have brought this earlier, but the last meeting was in February and it was a bit early for us to bring the agreed plan at that point. So we're coming a bit late in the day, but you should know we have already started to progress work on this plan. And the progress that we're making is included in the annual report. So this report presents the proposed internal audit plan for 26-27 and seeks committee's approval. The plan sets out how internal audit intends to deploy its resources during the year, identifies the reviews we propose to undertake to provide assurance over the council's governance, risk management and control frameworks. Has been developed using a risk-based approach and aligned to the council's corporate priorities and key risks. The global internal audit standards again require the head of internal audit to prepare an annual plan based on an assessment of organisational objectives, risks and assurance needs, and for the Audit and Accounts Committee to review and approve that plan. Our proposed programme includes coverage of key governance areas, core financial systems, ICT, resilience and major service areas, plus follow-up work on implementation of recommendations made on previous audits. This year it also includes a contingency allocation in the event that we may need to support the council on local government reorganisation work. That was something that the corporate management team were keen to include. Overall, we provide a total of 185 audit days. This is about 15 days less than we normally provide, based on discussions with the previous Director of Finance, but provides us with sufficient audit work to support an annual assurance conclusion. And that will remain under review during the year so we can respond to changing risks and priorities, particularly I think around local government reorganisation. And any significant amendments we'll report back to this committee. So again, happy to take any questions.
Councillor Woods.
Thank you for the report. The plan, look forward to the, I think it's really important the regeneration portfolio project management is audited. I think it will help the people involved in the projects as well, because we've got a lot going on. Secondly, I wondered when the last environmental health food safety audit was carried out, because I don't know what the length of the cycles are, but it's my understanding that there have been some issues. We've lacked the resource to meet our obligations with regard to food safety. So I just wondered if the auditors of the cycle has missed that issue that we've had, which is now being picked up by an external agency.
We don't really audit on an audit cycle anymore. We audit on the basis of risk, and we try to get around as many areas as we can, as frequently as we can. But I can't remember that we've covered food safety since I started in 2017. After you.
Yeah, it's important to understand that we look at the risk portfolio for the authority, and then we develop what we call an audit universe, when we understand what everything that we could possibly audit, but within the resource envelope that we've got, we can't do it all. So then we look at, that's why we prioritise it under that them high level risks and that corporate strategic oversight that we need to be looking at. Doesn't mean that some of the functions aren't key and important, but it just needs to be done within that resource that the council's buying for that service. So I think the old cycle of audits that were done every so often, it's not really possible now with the resource that we've got. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so who assesses the risk? Because I don't think a department with a huge amount of problems is going to be screaming out for an auditor to come and have a look at them.
We do that on the basis of, we look at the risk registers, we look at the corporate risk register, we look at the issues that we're aware of that's happening. We meet with the strategic leadership team to find out where their issues are, where their concerns are. So we're trying to get a balance of what are the issues that are concerning them, where they need the assurance, where they maybe not getting assurance from other areas we want to look into and do, and where we can add value into that. So it's that balancing act of their need and our need to give assurance in those areas. So within those conversations, that was highlighted that in this year they want some assurance in that area now.
Thank you.
Councillor Ashworth. Thank you. I'm not sure whether this is a question for you or for Kimberly. You mentioned that there's 15 days less auditing time this year. Can you just talk a little bit about why that decision has been made and what impact that's having? Because it seems like quite a lot.
That was a discussion with the previous Director of Finance around reducing fees. So we agreed 15 days because that was pretty much as far as we could go and maintain sufficient audit work to support an annual assurance conclusion. So it was basically to reduce the charges.
I think to put it in proportion, it's roughly about one audit, 15 days. So it's taking one audit off the plan. And that's the decision that they wanted. And we weighed it up as, does that still give us that breadth across the authority in the services to be able to give an opinion? And the view was that, yes, it does, but we wouldn't be able to then, if we lost any more days or any more audits, then we wouldn't then be in that position. And then we'll be reporting to you as a committee that there's not enough resource within there. So it's not a significantly big plan, this, but it does cover the key areas and the key areas of risk that we're comfortable with at the moment. And also it is a flexible plan. So if there's other areas that come up in the year, we can look at moving days and reprioritising some of those areas.
Especially given the contingency that we've got in place, if that, in the event that isn't needed for local government reorganisation, we could focus that on other audit work.
Thank you very much for that. Kimberly, are you happy with that? Because obviously you've been landed it rather than you've made the decision.
I'm satisfied that if internal audit are confident that they can offer a level of assurance based on the number of days, then yes, I'm happy. like I said, I wasn't involved in the decision. But we also have the flexibility of there are contingency days built in, and if anything was found, we do have the option to buy more days if that was needed.
Thank you very much.
We could come and audit more financial systems if you like.
Thank you, Councillor Ashworth. Are you okay with that answer? Yeah, okay. Councillor Payne.
Thank you. In your list of corporate priorities, the number one priority is thriving local economy, but none of the audits actually seem to tackle that particular priority. Is there a reason for that?
Regeneration portfolio. That's based around the economic health of the council.
Have you anything specific that you're thinking, Councillor Payne?
No, I just thought it odd that the number one priority wasn't referenced anywhere in that table of audits.
Just to clarify, that's not necessarily the number one priority. There's 4 priorities of equal weighting that are just numbered 1 to 4. It's not a ranking.
Are you okay with that answer then, Councillor Payne?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your face there. I'm not quite sure whether you were or not. Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Norton.
Yeah, thank you. Actually leads on from what you just touched on with Councillor Ashworth. So obviously you've got a number of days built in as a contingency in terms of local government reorganisation, but I'm guessing, and kind of your answer alludes to this a little bit, that's a little bit of a finger in the air in terms of what that might be needed. So my question is, how confident are you that the number of days you built in will be sufficient?
Absolutely finger in the air at the moment. I mean, we're in the same position with the county council. We don't know at this stage, and it's early days, what the ask will be. You know, what will be asked to get involved in, or what that will require. So I think this is the first year. Moving into next year, we'll probably have a clear idea of where we'll be involved and what impact that will have. But at the moment, it was just providing sufficient resource to be able to respond and react to need as it arises without impacting too much on the overall assurance opinion.
Yeah, and on that, if they need, if we do feel that there is extra work that's needed, you need some assurance in that area, then we'll come back to the committee and report on that. And likewise, if as an authority you feel that you want other pieces of work done in that to add more value or some more assurance, and you want us to do that, you can then come to us and speak to us about how we can resource that up, and we can look at that. So although the plan is flexible there, we can be as flexible, or try to be as flexible as we can with it. I don't have lots of resource to throw in your way, but we certainly will be looking at that. So if it can be added to as things become clearer with LGR, I think the important year will probably be the following year, but the work streams are now starting to spin up now, and there's work going on. So we need to understand what work that is and what then risks are looking like across them work streams.
So if we need to buy in more days from yourselves, then that is something that we can actually do.
Yeah,
we can assure the committee on that.
We can look at that. It obviously depends on how many days and when you need that, because my resource is spread across a number of clients and across county, but we can certainly look and do anything. We provide this service on a non-profit basis, and we're doing it to try and help and support councils that need it on the basis that we are a large authority with a resource there. So we'll certainly do our best to do it, but it depends. If you want another 100 days, then I haven't got that. But if you wanted an audit and a piece of work here and there, I'm sure we can look at that and sort that out. If that makes sense.
It does. Thank you so much. Councillor Norton, are you assured with that?
Well, I think it's a fair answer. It's not an easy one to answer, and it is, as we said, it's a finger in the air. So I guess it will have to be.
Yeah,
we just don't
yeah,
I think the council don't know what their ask is going to be either. So.
Thank you.
And I don't suppose we're the only council with all the LGR stuff going on. and trying to make everything sort of balance at this point. So thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. Okay. On has anybody else got any more questions before I just ask? No. On the risk on 3, just about what follow-up actions are being implemented regarding the work from health and safety on the cemeteries resulting from the tragedy, and sorry, have we not? Have you not?
That's D8.
Oh, sorry, I've looked at my wrong question. I do apologise, I jumped in too fast. Can I just then, on this report, sorry, I've got so many bits of paper floating about in front of me. Can I, on this report then, just recognise one of our members of staff, Paula Yates, who worked at the RBC. Can I have this noted, please, that we are putting, that worked for over 20 years at the RBC, and how the team continued to pull together after the tragic death of Paula. So can I just have that noted, please? And I'll come back to my question in a moment. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any more questions on that report? No. Can I ask somebody to move that internal audit annual report, please?
I'll move it, Chair.
Thank you. Can I have that seconded, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Can I ask all in those in favour, please? That report is carried. Thank you. Item D7, the external audit progress report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take that if I may.
Thank you, Karen.
The report sets out for the benefit of members the kind of background to where we are and where we're up to with the Council's audit of accounts and value for money. Just to rehearse a little bit of the history, but not too much there. The Council's last unqualified audit opinion was for the financial year that ended 31st of March 2018. Since that period in 2018, there have been a number of challenges both within the Council and nationally that meant that audit work didn't get completed in the years that it was due. And as a result of that, we are now in a position where I think it will be very difficult to get sufficient appropriate audit evidence for those years that have gone previously. So in line with the government's legislation to address the backlog that had developed nationally in local audit, we have issued disclaimed audit opinions since we took over as your auditor. Whilst you start from a different place in that respect than a number of authorities, it remains the case that you are caught up in the backlog that has happened, and important that there isn't a clear way forward as such yet. We will issue a disclaimed audit opinion again for 25-26 by the national deadline, because that's the right thing to do. But we are working with MHCLG to look at what the plan is for you going forwards and how that will work in the context of local government reorganisation. Because when the backstop legislation was brought in and those backstop dates were set, it was done with the intention that authorities will be back to an even keel, if you like, to a straight edge by 2028. And of course, you will be impacted by local government reorganisation. So there is some work that we need to do with MHCLG to understand where they would like us to focus our resource, recognising the pressure on your team around preparing for local government reorganisation, how important it is that your team are devoting the time and effort they need to look forwards for that, but also recognising that some of the things that are challenges for you in the years gone by relating to changes in systems, in personnel, in the availability of audit evidence, that change in corporate knowledge, if you like, the fact that when we go back to those very old periods, internal controls didn't work effectively, all will mean that it's a very significant piece of work that, you know, is in respect of very old sets of accounts. I think important to note that we recognise there has been a significant improvement in the Council's position in terms of preparing accounts, both in terms of timeliness, but also in the operation of internal controls and so on that internal audit have just been talking through. That mean that some of the issues that affected the older years don't now. But the problem with those old years is we haven't got a firm foundation to build from our perspective as auditors. So just to stress, we will give a disclaimed audit opinion for 25-26, but that doesn't mean we're not looking at the accounts at all. We will do a little bit of work, and then we will work with MHCLG around their plan for the future. So I'll come back to you as soon as I know more about that. MHCLG have asked for some information from us by the end of July, so Friday of this week. They will then reflect on that and come back to us with their queries and questions, and hopefully their plan for the future, or their directions for the future, which they will hand over to the local audit office once it's up and running later on this year. But important to stress that there's not a lot more information I can give you at this stage, because it is dependent on ministers. And obviously there's been a change in the ministerial team in the last few weeks, so we'll need to wait now for them to determine the way that they'd like to go. I'm not concerned at this stage that any work that MHCLG and or the local audit office ask for ahead of local government reorganisation we can't resource, but we just need to wait and see what that is, because we don't know the detail yet. Part 2 of our report is intended to give you information that might be helpful to you in fulfilling your governance responsibilities around the council. And the only thing that I would pull out of there is that CITFA have published their code of practice for local government accounting for 26-27 now. So that those are, if you like, the rules and the frameworks by which Kimberley will close down the financial year that we are currently in and haven't been in for very long. So if any of you are wanting to understand a little bit more about what's in your accounts, that will be a good place to look, albeit that it's next year rather than the year that you've just discussed now. I'll probably stop talking there, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions on this or anything that has just been said? No.
Just to say that was a very good briefing on an empty box, really. but thanks, it brought us up to date.
Councillor Ashworth?
Just an assumption that you are going to keep us up to date as that information rolls in.
Yes, we will. We'll let Kimberley know as soon as there is any update or any new information, because she's the Section 151 officer. So obviously it matters to her, because they're her responsibilities to work with us and to support us. And we will, of course, report back to you at any stage, through your regular cycle of meetings. If there's anything that I think you as members need to be aware of in between meetings, then I'll contact the chair in the first instance, and then we'll agree how we will share that information with you. But it's not our intention to keep any information from you about the direction of travel.
Thank you very much.
I think it's very important that myself, Kimberley, of course, and myself and the portfolio holder is kept up to speed with anything that we can then bring to the committee of a matter of urgency. Obviously, we're on this line now of movement to LGA, and I think that we just have to go with it and sort of, as a small authority, and we know where we've come from, and of course it's where we're going to, and I think that we will get there in a very good way, hopefully. But thank you for that, Karen. Any thoughts on anything at all? No? Can I ask somebody then to move that report then?
I'll move it, Chair.
Thank you. Can I have that verbal report seconded then, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
All in favour of that report? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Item D8, which is the Corporate Risk Register Update Q4. Is that yourself, Kimberley? Thank you.
Thank you. So this report has already been through overview and scrutiny. This report provides an overview of the Council's corporate risk position for Q4 25-26. The Corporate Risk Register continues to be reviewed quarterly by the corporate management team, with the majority of risks remaining stable. Of the 10 corporate risks before mitigation, 2 are rated green, 7 amber and 1 red. After mitigation, 3 corporate risks moved to green and 7 are at amber. So there are no red risks after mitigation. The only red rated risk relating to the potential for an incident resulting in death, serious injury or a HSE investigation is reduced to amber following mitigation as per the council's agreed action plan, which is outlined in the report. The committee is asked to note the council's corporate risk position and the continued monitoring and management of risks in line with the risk management strategy. Thank you.
Any questions for this report for Kimberly? No? No?
Okay.
Councillor Ashworth?
A note that this report, they've got so much easier to read. I sit on overview and scrutiny, and they've come for since I started, and they used to be really complicated. They're so much better to read now. So thank you very much for that.
I will not accept those thanks because they belong solely with Claire Law.
Will you pass them on then?
I have to say they
Yeah.
do, and she works so hard
Yeah.
on these reports. So yeah, a big thank you to all the team, really. Right, I'll just ask my question now. Sorry, I'll move on to it now. I've got the right piece of paper in front of me. So it's risk 3 on quarter 4. So really, it's just about asking about the actions that are being implemented regarding the health and safety work on the cemeteries, and obviously from the tragedy that happened in Rothenstall. And is that work met now within this year's budget? Can you just give us an update on that, please? Because I know there are some councils that are concerned about it.
Yeah, so I have spoken to our Head of Environmental Services and he has provided the following. Following the memorial safety inspections in the cemeteries, a programme of remedial works is underway. These remedial works are scheduled to be completed in September of this year. There are a number of large memorials that are outstanding, and we're in the process of awarding a contract for repair, and that is really close to being completed. Again, we anticipate this work to be concluded in September. We are now moving on to look at the closed churchyards and are currently in discussions with the diocese to obtain appropriate faculties and approval for the works. And we anticipate that this work will be concluded within the budget allocation for this year.
Thank you. That's very comprehensive and really good to know. And I think as soon as we can get any information out on that even to the general public, I think that would be really, really good, because I know there's a lot of people concerned about it. Any other questions on any other points? No. Well, can I ask then that that the item is can it be moved at all?
I'll move it,
Can I
Chair.
move anybody to move it?
I'll move it, Chair.
I'm looking. Can I ask it? Oh, thank you, Councillor. Is anybody approve? Can we all approve that record, please? Thank you. So that's clearly approved. So that is carried. Thank you. And it's item E now, which is the exclusion of public and press, which we haven't got any, so we don't need to exclude them. But do we need to turn? But do we need to turn off the live stream? Oh, I apologise. I always forget about it having to move and second the live stream. Can we now move and second to go into exclusion of the public and press, please?
I'll
Could
move it, Chair.
Oh,
Sorry.
thank you. Could I have that seconded, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Oh, thank you. All in favour? Let's do it properly. Thank you. That has been clearly moved, and we can now go into private. Thank you.